Sagittarius, welcome to your monthly horoscope for April 2026. April is actually a really important month for you around creativity, romance, self expression, joy, and also your work and daily life. This month has a mix of inspiration and reality checks. And by the end of the month, there are big shifts happening in your relationships and your future direction involving other people. So let's break this down by week. Before we get into it, make sure you subscribe if you align with my energy and enjoy my content. Okay, so I do break these horoscopes down by week and I select a chart for each week to give you a visual. So as soon as we come into the month on the 1st, we have that full moon in Libra. This full moon is lighting up your 11th house of friendships, social circles, your community, networking, and long term goals. A full moon here can bring a culmination or realization involving a friendship, a group, or a goal that you've been working towards. You may even be realizing who is really on your side or who you align with and who you don't align with anymore. Sometimes a full moon in the 11th house can bring an ending to a friendship or a social dynamic. If you want to take a deeper dive into the full moon energy, you can check out the forecast that is on my channel. I get into the chart for the full moon and also get into how it is showing up for all 12 rising signs. So make sure you check that out. And so then on April 3rd, we have Mercury forming the final trine to Jupiter. This is a really supportive conversation or realization, especially around home, family, shared finances, and emotional matters. This is happening between your 4th house and your 8th house. So, this could be conversations about money, family matters, living situations. This can be emotional healing of some kind or something finally making sense after the Mercury retrograde period. Because this is the third and final trine, there's something that you may have been sitting with over the last 2 months. This is when you finally gain clarity and understanding. Also, on the 3rd, we have Venus squaring Pluto. Venus is in your 6th house of work, health, and daily routine, squaring Pluto in your 3rd house of self expression, community, neighbors, siblings, all things associated with reading, speaking, and writing. And so this can bring intensity around communication. This is a time to be mindful of power struggles within conversations or feeling like someone is trying to control a situation. Conversations may feel very deep, intense, or even emotionally charged at this time. On April 5th, we have the Sun square Jupiter. The Sun is currently in your 5th house of children, creativity, passion, romance, hobbies, interests, everything that lights you up. Squaring Jupiter in your 8th house of shared resources and your partner's finances. The 8th house is also deep psychological healing and transformation. This is a time where you do want to be careful of overcommitting, overpromising, and feeling overwhelmed. This is a time where you just want to be cautious of saying yes to everything, overcommitting. The sun also rules your 9th house of higher knowledge, higher wisdom, long distance travel, your belief systems, squaring Jupiter, which Jupiter is your chart ruler. And so this is affecting you more so than the other signs. There's some tension that can arise at this time or heaviness that you're having to navigate. So just be a bit aware on this day. And then on April 6th, we have Venus forming a sextile to the north node and a trine to the south node. Venus is in your 6th house of work, health, and daily routine. When Venus forms a sextile to the north node in your 4th house of home, family, and emotional foundation, and a trine to the south node, which is up in your 10th house of your career and public reputation, there's something that can really be shifting here when it has to do with your work schedule, when it has to do with your daily routine. There could be an opportunity maybe to work from home, which is maybe something you've been waiting for or wanting to do. This can also be something coming in with something you've been navigating since January of 2025 when the nodes entered Virgo and Pisces. Either way, the lunar nodes are very fated, very karmic. And so this is a day to pay attention to what is showing up for you? What is coming to your awareness? What are the important conversations that you're having? And then we get to the second week of April, and on the 9th, Mercury leaves shadow. This is nice because we've been in that Mercury retrograde energy since mid-February. You have Mercury in your 4th house of home and family and property, real estate, emotional foundation. And so there's something maybe you've been having to revisit or reevaluate around your home or family members, or even something that you're processing on a really deep emotional level. This is your private life, what you're kind of doing behind closed doors. And so now, whatever you've been sitting with, that you're finally going to gain clarity and understanding, and there's finally going to be some forward movement. Also, on the ninth, we have Mars entering Aries, which is in your fifth house of creativity, passion, romance, hobbies, interests, everything you do for fun. This is where you can experience a lot of passion towards your creative pursuits, romance, dating, self expression. However, because it's Mars, we always do want to be careful of, anger, aggression, and conflict. Also, children are in that fifth house. So maybe you're focusing more on your children. Maybe you're really busy with your children. And then on the 13th, Mars is going to form a conjunction to Neptune in that fifth house. Mars ruling our motivation and willpower and drive. Sometimes this is a day where we can feel drained. We don't have a lot of energy. And so this isn't a day to really, push yourself. This is a day to just kind of take it easy if this is something you're experiencing. This is also a day where we do want to be cautious of illusions, of deception, of not seeing things clearly, because Neptune does blur those boundaries, especially in that fifth house of dating and romantic connections. If you're meeting somebody on this day, make sure don't form any solid commitments on this day, only because there probably is something that you're not seeing clearly. Neptune tends to give us rose-colored glasses. And so we're seeing people not for who they are, but who we want them to be. And so this is a day you just want to be a bit cautious of that. And then on the 14th, Mercury is going to enter Aries. And so, there's a lot of focus shifting into, your children, your creative projects. There's more focus on doing what lights you up, doing what makes you happy, diving, back into your creative pursuits. This can also bring more conversations with someone, that you're dating. You could meet somebody new. And then we get to the third week of April, and on the 16th, the sun is going to form a conjunction to Chiron. And again, this is in your fifth house. Now, when we're talking about Chiron, we're talking about the wounded healer. This is where there can be triggers or activations of our deepest wounds and vulnerabilities. And so this is a day where something can be triggered, possibly, around if you're dating or with children. This can bring up wounds around being seen or being recognized, feeling rejected, or feeling like you're creative or feeling like your creativity or personality isn't appreciated. But remember that whatever is triggered at this time is so that you can process it and heal it. This is so you can reclaim your confidence and your right to take up space and be yourself. And also on the 16th, we have Mercury forming a conjunction to Neptune here in the fifth house. This is another day where we do want to be cautious of deceptions and blurred boundaries and all that Neptune stuff. But this is also a really good day for creative projects because Mercury, is our mind, creativity, reading, writing, speaking. Neptune is creativity, is imagination. And so this is a really good day if you are doing anything creative or even artistic. And if it's with the right person that not necessarily somebody new, this is a really good day for romance. However, I don't recommend, really forming a solid committed partnership with anybody new. You know what I mean? Or if you're meeting somebody on this day, there could be something, again, that you're not seeing clearly because of the Neptune influence. And then on the 17th, we have the new moon in Aries. And so this is a time to set those intentions for those fifth house themes and topics. This is a brand new beginning for romance, for dating, for creativity, for passion projects, for self-expression, for, developing a more confident self, and even for diving back into what lights you up and having fun and doing things you love. This is a beautiful new moon to start something new that brings you joy. And then on April 19th, the sun is going to enter Taurus, bringing more focus to that sixth house of work, routine, your health, and your daily responsibilities. Now is when the focus shifts from fun and creativity to getting your life organized. You become more focused on your day-to-day routines and maybe your workout routine, changing your health habits. Also on the 19th, Mars is going to form a conjunction to Saturn in Aries in your fifth house. And so this is a day you want to mark on the calendar because this is both malefic planets, and it can be, you never know how it can go, right? There's always higher and lower expressions to these energies, but it is both malefic planets. And so it is a day where we want to be cautious. This is where things can get really serious within, relationships or somebody that you're dating. You could form a committed partnership, or you could decide to take your creative projects to the next level. This could also, though, be arguments with your children or something going on with your children. Saturn rules commitment, responsibility, structure, and Mars is motivation, drive, passion, but also anger, aggression, conflict. And so it can go both ways. We never know exactly how these energies are going to manifest, but we always know it's going to be one of two things. It's going to go one of two ways. And so this is a day to just be cautious and have that awareness. And then on the 20th, Mercury is going to form a conjunction to Mars, again in your fifth house of creative projects and children and passion and romance. But Mercury rules our mind and communication and how we're speaking and delivering information. And so we want to be careful of conflict, arguments, impatience, and impulsiveness on this day. However, this can also be when you're super driven and motivated to create something beautiful. And then we get to the fourth week of April, and on the 23rd, Venus is going to form a conjunction to Uranus. Now, at this point, Uranus is still going to be in Taurus. And so when Venus forms a conjunction to Uranus, Venus is the ruler of your 11th house and the ruler of your 6th house. And so Uranus brings in unexpected events and shock and enlightenment and awakening. So it is that planet of, mixed vibes. So Venus ruling your house of friends, there could be something around friendships, social circles, or even social media, that is showing up. And being in your sixth house and Venus ruling that sixth house, this could have to do with something unexpected at work, something unexpected around with a coworker or employee, something maybe with your health. This could be a day you do want to watch for anxiety. You could feel a little anxious on this day. Uranus rules the electrical systems in our body. And so Venus being the ruler of the sixth in the sixth house, that's your health. And so this is also a day to just, maybe ground, drink a lot of water, get your feet on the earth, take care of your health. And then on the 23rd, 24th, Venus is going to enter Gemini, which is in your seventh house of relationships and one-on-one connections. And I put 23rd, 24th because Venus is literally entering Gemini at midnight where I'm at. And so depending on where you are in the world is going to depend on exactly what day that is. But Venus entering your seventh house can be really beautiful for forming one-on-one partnerships, leveling up within a current relationship, spending more time with people you love. And then on the 25th, Uranus is going to enter Gemini. And this is really big. I will be creating and posting a separate forecast going really deep into the Uranus and Gemini transit. Uranus is going to be in Gemini for 8 years roughly. So this is not change that happens, within a day, a week, a month, or even a year. This is gradual change. And so Uranus is going to completely change the relationships in your life, what you need within partnership, what you require, and it's going to look very different. I'm sure the people that you are connected to or draw into your life are going to look very different than they do now. And that doesn't mean that, if you're married, that's going to change, but your requirements within that partnership can change, or maybe your partner changes, or maybe the two of you change together. Uranus rules change, unexpected events, enlightenment, awakening. So Uranus completely changes the areas of life that Uranus is transiting. Also on the 25th, we have the sun forming a square to Pluto. So the sun is in your sixth house of work, health, and daily routine, squaring Pluto in your third house of communication, your mindset, self-expression, also vehicles, driving, local travel. So this is a day you do want to be just a little bit cautious of driving your surroundings. Also, this is a day you could feel maybe overwhelmed. Um, the sun also rules, that ninth house. And so I would say I would say, yeah, definitely watch just traveling on this day. Pluto is intense, deep, transformational. And so when we have squares here, this can be breakthroughs or transformation through an intense situation. And so this could have to do with, your belief systems. This could have to do with maybe your work, coworkers, or employees because of the sixth house. It could have to do maybe something with your health. Maybe this is where maybe you have, something showing up with your health and you decide to get really serious about your health. And so this is just a day, just squares can bring tension and heaviness. On the 26th, we have Mercury squaring Jupiter and Venus forming a sextile to Neptune. And so Mercury is still in your fifth house squaring Jupiter in the eighth. So this is where we do want to be a little bit cautious of maybe financial situations. This is overwhelm. This is mental overwhelm. And so you don't want to commit to too many things. You don't want to overpromise. This is where you can start to feel overloaded. So yeah, just be a little bit cautious of that. And then Venus sextiling Neptune, Venus in your seventh house, forming a sextile to Neptune can be really great for romance. But again, it's Neptune, and so we do want to make sure we're seeing people clearly. And if it's somebody that is already in your life that this is great for, developing romance or doing something very romantic. But if it's anybody new and you just so happen to be meeting them on this day, I would wait to form any committed relationship because there could be something you're not seeing clearly. And then on the 28th, Venus is going to form a trine to Pluto. So Venus is in that seventh house, forming a trine to Pluto in your third. So you could be having some really deep, powerful conversations with a partner. And again, Venus is the ruler of your sixth house. So you could be completely transforming your daily routine in some way, or something is completely shifting at work. I feel like this month is really deep for you guys, on a relationship level. Like there's a lot transforming within your partnerships. And then on the 29th, Venus is going to form a T square to the lunar nodes. And this is very fated, very karmic. Venus is in your seventh house of relationships, squaring the south node in your 10th house of career, public reputation. And the south node represents our comfort zones and, what we are used to. And the north node represents this new direction that we are meant to move into. And this is a crossroads. This is where you may have to make a choice with something. I mean, it could have to do with home, family, and family dynamics, or something very deeply personal because of that fourth house. It could have to do with career, public reputation, what you're known for out in the world, your image, and, seventh house of relationships and one-on-one connections. And so this is a day where something can really come to a head. And Sagittarius, April is a month where you are truly reconnecting with joy and creativity. You're opening a new chapter when it has to do with romance and your passion projects. You're getting serious about your work and your daily life. And this really is a month where you are entering major new chapters within relationships. If I had to summarize April for you in one sentence, it would be what you love, who you love, and how you live your daily life are all changing. And you are being asked to take your happiness seriously. This is a month to follow what brings you joy, but also be willing to commit to it, structure it, and build something real out of it. April is a turning point month for your heart, your creativity, and your relationships. I really hope this helps you navigate the energy for this month. If you would like to book a one-on-one pre-recorded reading with me, I have all the information in the description below. I structure my readings how I structure my YouTube videos, only instead of a monthly chart or moon chart, it is your chart, whether it is a birth chart, solar return chart, lunar return chart, and I walk you through how I am interpreting the energy and putting the pieces together. So not only is it a reading, but it is a learning and teaching tool that you can keep forever. So if you are interested in that, I will have that in the description below. Also join me on Patreon, join the Cosmic Circle. I have exclusive content on there. I am currently just rebuilding my online presence. So come build a community with me. I have a brand new podcast, Adina's Diary. There is exclusive bonus episodes for my Patreon members, as well as PDF guides and tons of support. The podcast is mainly about healing from toxic relationships, trauma, narcissistic abuse. I'm telling my story as well as I think I may eventually have others on to tell their stories. I'm creating a safe space for support for others that have gone through, similar experiences to what I've gone through. It can be a very lonely road. And so I really made a promise to myself that I was going to, take this journey. And so I do talk about astrology on the podcast. I talk about the transits that were happening at the time of the events, but it's also about, personal things like stuff that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. And so if that aligns with you, make sure you check that out. It's Adina's Diary. It's on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, YouTube, and Podbean, and then bonus episodes on Patreon. So don't forget to subscribe and like this video if you align with my energy and enjoy my content, and I will connect with you in the next one.